Aerial refueling, especially for the military, has been a long sought after goal for many years. This is a brief history of the results. One of the first attempts at aerial refueling was in 1921 when the co-pilot of a biplane stood on its wing, grabbed the wing skid of a Curtiss Jenny flying just above him, and hoisted himself onto its wing, carrying a 5-gallon can of gas for aerial refueling. Not very practical, but a great stunt for barnstorming. However, the first practical approach to aerial refueling occurred in 1923 when a small plane with extra fuel tanks lowered a loose flying hose that was captured by someone in the receiver plane, allowing fuel to be transferred. During the 1920s and 30s, there was little or no commercial or military interest to aerial refueling, but it was used extensively in an attempt to set endurance records. In 1929, the question mark. It was named that as project members, when asked how long they expected to fly, responded, "That is the question." It flew non-stop 6 days and was refueled 42 times. A hatch cut in the roof received the fuel hose from the tanker. Supplies were lowered by rope. Catwalks enabled the mechanic to access the 3 engines for maintenance. As radios were unreliable, none were installed in any of the aircraft in the question mark program. All communications used flags, flares, and notes tied to the supply lines. Also, messages were written in chalk on the fuselages of escorting fighters, painted black and nicknamed blackboard planes. The maximum number of refuelings in a single non-stop flight, 130, took place in 1958 and was part of a 65-day flight endurance test. A truck equipped with a fuel tank and pump rendezvoused twice a day with the small light plane, a Cessna 172, over a stretch of straight highway the government had closed off. It flew roughly 20 feet above the truck, lowered a hook, and retrieved a refueling hose. They did this for 65 days without landing. The 2 pilots alternated flying the plane, ate hot, chopped up food hauled up in thermos jugs, and used a portable toilet periodically emptied into a formerly barren desert. This endurance record still stands today. After World War II, the military realized the need to increase the range of fighter planes for long-range missions. As an alternative to aerial refueling, 2 test programs were conducted where bombers would carry fighter escorts to the target and then release them. In the FICON project, a B-36 Peacemaker bomber was modified with a special trapeze mechanism in its bomb bay that mated to a Republic F-84 Thunderstreak fitted with a retractable hook in front of the cockpit. The hook linked the fighter to the trapeze that held the aircraft to the bomb bay during flight. It was lowered for deployment and raised up after the mission was completed. However tactically sound, its operational implementation was difficult. Hookups with the B-36 were challenging, even for experienced test pilots, and resulted in cancellation of the project in 1956. In the second program, called Tiptoe, the objective was to extend the range of jet fighters for protection of piston-engined bombers. Provision was made for in-flight attachment and detachment of two F-84 Thunderjet fighters to a B-29 bomber via wingtip connections. Although this was successfully demonstrated, it was a complex operation, and the program ended with the introduction of new in-flight refueling techniques. The two most commonly used techniques were the probe and drogue and the flying boom. For the probe and drogue technique, the probe on the receiver aircraft is flown into a drogue at the end of a long hose from the tanker. Precision flying is required to acquire the drogue while flying at 200 to 300 miles per hour. For the flying boom technique, the tanker boom operator must fly the boom into the receptor aircraft receptacle. This has been compared to threading a needle in a windstorm. Again, precision flying is required for these maneuvers. Here at the American Air Power Museum is a Republic 105 Thunder Chief and its flight trainer, both showing the retractable probe for connection to a drogue. And here is a Thunderbird along with the museum's flight trainer, both showing the receptacle for insertion of a flying boom. Aerial refueling that allows an aircraft to fill her up while still in flight has come a long way from those early days of wing walking.